It's time for Veterans Issues, the show that brings you information about veterans, military, and their family. Now here's your host, Ken Rollins.
Welcome to Veterans Issues. Ken Rollins here. Today we got a guest on the show. His name is Ken Rollins. No, that would be me. We don't have a guest today. We're just going to talk about things that we don't have a chance to do that very often when I have a guest on here. So I'm going to take a day today to cover some things more in depth than we normally do. So stay where you are and get you a pen. Come back. I got some news for you. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. Today's show is just to go into detail in some of the things we talk about here on Veterans Issues that I don't get to go into to the depth of, and because I'm dealing more with the guests than the subject matter. So today I'm going to talk about different subjects and cover a little bit more detail about them and some of the things that's up to date to what's going on in the country today regarding veterans. And remember, I said that word veterans. It's not veterans. You hear so many of our congressmen, our senators, the veterans, even some of our national leaders, veterans. It is veterans, folks. Okay, now I want to talk about the VA hospital, the Veterans Administration Hospital in Alabama. I can't talk to the others, but as a member of the State Board of Veterans Affairs, every quarter we are briefed by the three directors for the homes. Actually, the one in Montgomery has got Tuskegee also. Birmingham, and Tuscaloosa. And just recently we were briefed by all three directors. Sadly, the one that briefed us, the director of Montgomery, kind of gave us a little bit of information. It became a little bit, not hostile, but there was quite a discussion at our board meeting. And as you've noticed in the paper, he has been relieved of that command of the Central Alabama VA. The reason for that is misrepresenting the facts. I'm not going to say lying or cooking the books and whatever has been on national. Today, as I'm doing this show, President Obama was on television as I came in here, and he's talking to the American Legion about that, about what's happening in the VA, what's our new VA, Mr. McDonald, what expected to do with claims as well as the medical. Now, I can say this from the reports and from a personal experience. The Birmingham VA hospital that serves most of us in our viewing range here is doing excellent work. We have no problems out of Birmingham. One of the reasons is the guy that's been on my show, the director, Tom Smith, and Jeff Hester, they go around to the facility. They don't just sit there in that hospital. Matter of fact, it'd be hard to find him in the Birmingham facility, because most of the time he's either at a clinic or down in the hospital looking at and talking to the veterans. He looks at his customer as the veterans, and I give him that credit because no other reason than I have full confidence that Birmingham VA is doing the best it can. But let me tell you something that some of you don't think about. The VA hospitals were designed in the 40s to accommodate a World War II veteran that, as they say, only had 3 to 4 issues, medical issues. And they called the PTSD they had then, post-traumatic stress disorder, they called it shell shock. You remember that, shell shock. And they didn't build the facilities to accommodate a lot of things. The one thing they didn't build it to accommodate was something called women. They didn't have anything for the women. They didn't have any OB, they didn't have any breast cancer, they didn't have anything for the women. So what did they have to do? They had to take floors, entire floors, and make women's clinics out of it. Well, that took away from the medical part, and that because the facility was not built to accommodate that type veteran. Then they ended up with a thing called a Vietnam veteran like myself, who have as many as 13 issues, as opposed to the World War II had the 3 to 4. So you can understand that a facility, imagine you had your house was built to accommodate 3 people, and you take in a neighbor who's got 9 people. They're nice people and all that, but you got nowhere to put them. Same thing with we got doctors and clinicians, nurses and everything, but we don't have anywhere for them to do their work because the facility was not built for that. Now with the Afghan, Iraq veterans coming home, the amputees, the IEDs, the traumatic brain injuries and the PTSD, those facilities are stressed out to the max. And I'll be talking more about that, but we're going to get 20,000 home here from out of the state of Alabama from Afghanistan. So the VA, the summary is the ones in Birmingham are doing great. The one in Tuscaloosa is not as great, but it's doing pretty good. The one in Montgomery got some problems, and they are taking, Congresswoman Roby has taken that and got him removed. He's not fired. Now that's another thing too. You talk about firing these people, you can't do it. I retired from the federal government. You can't just fire people. They got a union. We had a union, and you cannot fire them without due process. So when we say we need to fire that director, they have all these rights. Just look at Lois Lerner still drawing a paycheck. The lady that was, and I say that gently, the woman that's out in the head of the Arizona VA, so many people died, so many veterans died, she's still drawing a check. She's been relieved of her duties, but she's still drawing the same amount of money, staying at home watching TV. So anyhow, here's something I talk about on here a lot, and I can't emphasize enough about the DD-214. The DD-214 is your everything. It's what you got to have. That if a veteran that's watching this passes, the spouse is going to, first thing they're going to ask for, the DD-214. You want a military funeral for your husband or your wife or whoever it is, if you got to have a DD-214 to give to the funeral home. Now that's what you do. You give it to your funeral home and you say, my husband wanted a military funeral. And then the Navy, Air Force, Marines, or whatever will determine what type military funeral. You can't always have the rifles. A lot of people get upset about that, but they will determine whether it's Navy, Marines, whatever. The folks out of Birmingham, Fort Rooker, Huntsville, whatever, they will determine. But have that DD-214 where you know where it is, and if you got children, make sure they know where it is. A lot of people got them. They just can't find them because a lot of us old veterans, we got our own little filing system where we know everything is, but nobody else knows, and we do that intentionally. But make sure that somebody knows where your DD-214 is located. Now, for those of you that don't know, we got 4 veterans' homes in the state of Alabama. They're located in Alexander City, Bay Minette, Huntsville, and in Pell City. Those are state veterans' homes. They're funded partially by the federal and partially by the state. And it costs about $16 a day for the ones in other than Pell City, about $20-something plus the one in Pell City for the veteran. Now, if you're 70% or above, it's free. There's no cost at all for one of the veterans' homes. We have state-of-the-art, bar none, some of the best. We don't call them nursing homes. They're veterans' homes. And a lot of people in this viewing area have been residents of this home. And I am so thrilled when people come tell me how their loved one was appreciative of the care they got at especially the one down here in Pell City. It's not any better care, but it's such a great facility. I mentioned the veterans are going to be returning here. We're going to get 20,000 of them in Alabama between now and the end of the year. A lot of them, I want to tell you something about, they're going to need jobs. I just heard the president talking about that a while ago, that we got to give these people jobs. You couldn't hire a better employee than a veteran that's worked all 3 shifts. They've been trained into safety. They're one of the best employees. But the one thing they're used to is change. You know how that is in the workforce when they have change. We're going to go to break here. I'm going to talk about more things, so you stay right where you are and get you a pen. Got some good stuff. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. I'm Ken Rollins, and we're talking about things that the veterans need to know that I don't get to cover during the regular shows. So we're talking about, I've got different things that topics we're going to talk about. So get you a pen and get ready to just listen up. If you're the spouse of a veteran, it's good information that you need to know. So let's go back to as we went to break, I was talking about the veterans returning and about what good employees. A veteran has been they've walked out the motor pools, and they've guarded the motor pools. They did the most boring work there is. They've been on the firing line and been fired at and fired the other way. They have been through promotions, demotions, and everything that you can go through in life. And they come out, they're pretty talented in that way. Now, you're not hiring a gunner. you're hiring somebody who has all that training. There's a lot of training you get in the military that has to do with administrative, that has nothing to do with firing a weapon. So I would suggest that you be ready to hire a veteran. Now, one of the things I'll talk about if I get around to it here is hiring a veteran. They have a bill, this Alabama Veterans Hire Heroes for Hire. And for a business, you get, I think, $3,000 tax on it. And if you're a veteran and you want to start your own business, you get $1,000 tax credit for that. That's under the Heroes for Hire. And I'll mention that again later on, hopefully, if I get around to everything. But I'll just say it, be ready to hire a veteran if you have the opportunity, because you're going to have one that's been through all the stuff you're going to train somebody for. And those folks that worked out the incinerator, one accident in all that time, and it was tripping and falling the stairs, had nothing. They were so safety conscious. So you got a business, you don't want people out on workman's comp because they're drawing a check and they're out there and your spot's still open for them and they're not getting to work, they're not being productive. So a good veteran is a good hire. Now the other part of that is we're going to have 20% of those coming back are going to have levels of post-traumatic stress disorder. That is a statistic that's furnished us. 7% will be suicidal. And that's not the one I'm talking about the hiring. I'm talking about the 80% plus that's going to make good employees. Somebody with PTSD can make a good employee. It's just the levels of it. So I want you to understand what it is. If you was driving down the road and you saw a child get run over by a car, that's a traumatic event. It may not bother you right then as much, but in the years to come, you'll see something that jogs that memory, and you'll have flashbacks, and you'll have sweats, and you'll have anxieties, and the things that go, you'll have anger probably. It's just things that goes with PTSD that could come to you as a civilian. These folks that's coming back from Afghanistan, all you had to do is watch your television to see what they're under. The explosions, the IEDs they call them. They driving down the road and you see a dead animal, you see that's a dead possum. They see it as a bomb. They react to it that way. So there's a lot of things we as a community need to understand. And I hope that the churches would get involved. I've asked it many times on here. Churches are where the people would go. They went to Afghanistan. They're coming back as a different person. They're going to sit in the furthest part of the church in the back when they come back from there, but they still got their salvation. They just don't want their back exposed. So you got to understand those things, and I'm available. My phone number will be up here several times. So if you need to know about it and you want to talk about it in your church, I can give you some information. It's common sense stuff, but you got to know what PTSD is. And so anyhow, and I wanted to say, I was talking about one of the things I mentioned about PTSD and those returning is suicide. And we have right today, every day that you get up, 22 of our veterans will kill themselves, take their own lives. That's 22 every day. When you go to sleep tonight, know that 22 veterans took their lives today. And that's a sad statistic. We had the first 55 days of the last year, I remember that statistic. Of the first 55 days of 2012, we had 53 suicides in the military. So it's not the fun and glamour that you might see on your evening news, but that is something we need to think about. We need to think about the veterans that wrote that check and signed it and filled it out to the United States government, and they became a GI, government issue. And for that, we owe them something. I want to talk about volunteerism. Now, there's a lot of chances of volunteerism for in the veterans. You can volunteer to drive the van that leaves Oxford down here, that takes veterans to their appointments over at the Birmingham VA, and you wait on them, and you take them over there and you bring them back. And man, there is no better satisfaction than to be able to do that. These are veterans that can't drive themselves, and you're able to take them to their appointments. And that is something, you want to do that, I'll put you in charge of Paul Brule, who's in charge of that program here, and get you hooked up. You have to go through a little bit of training. They just don't put anybody behind a wheel with their veterans. That's precious cargo. So if you're interested in volunteering that way. Now, the Veterans Home down in Pell City, you can call down there or you can go down there. They It's down to exit 158 there at Pell City. The Robert L. Howe, Colonel Robert L. Howard Veterans Home. And they can use volunteers for various things. They take people on outings and that kind of thing. So there's lots of ways you can do that. And there's some ladies made quilts for them, and there's some of them make cupcakes, but they coordinate it with the facility. Homeless veterans, to let you know that the State Board of Veterans Affairs voted last year, and I made the motion that we do it. Now, because I didn't think that there was homeless veterans out there that much, but we found a huge population. We did a study, it took a year to do the study, and we found all those homeless veterans all over Alabama. And believe it or not, folks, most of them live in wooded areas off the interstates and things like that. So we now have at the State Board of Veterans Affairs, we have a homeless director down there, and we got a funded program that is dedicated just to homeless veterans, and that's I think is a good thing. We also opened up this past year the first state veteran cemetery, free burial for any veteran, and their spouse can be buried in the same place for $300 extra. So that's at Spanish Fort, Alabama, and your remains can go from wherever you're watching the show, can be taken down there and given a proper burial for free. It's for the veterans. And let's see, I want to talk about some legislation. I told some legislation that passed, and if you don't hear it from me, you're probably not going to know about it. Now, you're going to see me moving around because I'm doing it for a reason. There's a lot of bills that's been passed that benefit veterans, and one of them is not a monetary benefits so much as a pride thing. I'm not going to show you all this, but it's a veteran's driver's license. And on this driver's license, just like everybody else's, I don't think it had too much information on there, but anyhow, down in the left-hand corner, if you can close up on that with your TV at home, that says veteran. And this card at a lot of the box stores, facilities, restaurants, they will honor that proof that you're a veteran. So they give veterans discounts. So there you go. It's available. You'll have to go to your license place. When you get your new license, that's a good thing to do. Just tell them you want veteran put on there. If you go before your license is due to be renewed, that will cost you $18 to do that. We have run out of time. I got a lot of things I want to talk about. I'll do some of it over into the other news you can use. I appreciate you tuning in this week, and we'll do this more often because I've left a lot of stuff on the table right here. So stay where you are. I got news that you can use when we come back. Stay right there. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. We got some things I couldn't do in the first segment. I want to mention those here. This is legislation. The legislature's passed a law that you get a veteran, you get free admission during state holidays to any state park. The Hero for Hire Act, I told you about that. Unemployment. If you are drawing, let's say you're living in Missouri and you move to Alabama because your husband got transferred to, say, Fort Rooker. If you show those orders to the state of Alabama unemployment office, you can draw unemployment from the state of Alabama, but it has to have orders showing you were transferred. If you're a disabled veteran, you do not have to pay ad valorem tax on your property, real estate in the state of Alabama. And the Alabama GI Bill, you do not, under the GI Bill, the Alabama GI Bill, you don't have to have served in combat, and that's a law that was changed last year. Now, Veterans Day come up on November 11th. We'll be talking more about that. I want to talk more about the Veterans Court with Judge Peggy Miller-Locker. That's a very important program that is talked about here on the station. And I got to find all these notes that I've misplaced here now. Anyhow, I want to let's see. Everybody's got my new contact number, I hope, at 239-9234. You can email me at krroll1234@aol.com. You can text me at that number, and I'm on Facebook. So a lot of my folks, hello to, I got to say shout out to William Hutchins, who's just Mr. Education for it. I'm concerned, a great friend, and I just have to shout out to him when I think about it. The part I've talked about the automobile, if you can donate an automobile that you're not using anymore, is serviceable. we can give that to a needy person. Have several of them on the list right now, and you get a tax credit for that. We'll give you just like we give it to Goodwill. So give me a call if you got a serviceable vehicle you like. Appreciate you purchasing that law enforcement tag that we talk about, because funds from that's going to go to build the law enforcement memorial in Anniston, and part of it goes to the one in Washington, D.C. We're coming up on that time with flu shots ready, so call the clinic. There's a clinic in Oxford. I don't know the numbers for the others, but from Oxford, this is a secret number we've always had for you. It's 256-832-4147. 832-4147. Don't share that, man, to keep it between us. I want to thank WEAC TV 24. Now, you notice on my shirt I've got a different kind of 24. Let's see, I'm on this side, this one. And it's a different kind of 24 than the new one. And nobody's ever said anything to me, but I kind of feel bad now that the station has got all those new 24s on there. I'm going to be getting mine updated so I won't be out of uniform here. And I always talk about the regional humane shelter, and I do that for a reason, because there's folks out there doing a great job. It was not doing that always, not always been doing a great job, but right now it is. Jane Cunningham and all the folks out there, thank you for doing that. The phone number for them, if you want to help them out, is 256-241-3647. And I also want to thank the county commission, especially Tim Hodge and J.D. Hess. I want to thank y'all for what you've been doing to help out there. That's been an awesome task to take care of those critters, critters, little animals, little people, furry people, whatever. Let's see. I got to give a shout out. Betty Carr, I haven't given you a shout out in a long time. I started to say shut out. I'll give you a shout out in a long time. And she is, in my opinion, the ambassador to Anniston. So Betty, the shout out for you, girl. And this week's salute goes to all those people that's working at it, the Humane Society. It makes it so great out there now, and I appreciate you so much. We'll see you here next week on Veterans Issue. Salute.